Time is now 12 p.m. I call the December 29th, 2021 Lisle Library District Personnel Policy Committee meeting to order. Chris, roll call, please.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Here.
Jenny Norton.
Here.
Emily Swissett.
Here.
Sarah Wynn.
Here.
Beth McCullen.
Here.
Tatiana Weinstein.
Here. Thank you. Second item on the agenda is opportunity for visitors to speak, general public comment period. Seeing as we have none here, we can move on to number 3. Approved minutes of the June 1st, 2021 Personnel and Policy Committee meeting. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
I move to approve the minutes of the June 1st, 2021 Personnel Policy Committee.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Anything to be pulled or discussed?
Thank you.
Okay, roll call, please, Chris.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Sarah Wynn.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Emily Swissett.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to number 4, director evaluation review discussion. Okay, so there's no ancillary materials in the packet for this, but I just wanted to discuss it. We have not met as this committee since June, and we conducted the previous year's director's evaluation in May, June,
Yes.
around then. And at that time, we discussed that we were going to follow the same procedure for last fiscal year as we had done for the fiscal before that. And then we talked about making some changes as a whole board and discussing what we were going to do. However, we haven't done that. I think we've gotten caught up in everything going on with the renovation. We've had extra special meetings for the appointment of 2 new trustees, and we've had just a lot of different special meetings and trying to figure out when we could meet. And it didn't happen. And so as a result, I kind of wanted to just talk about what we've done in the past, and then we can just discuss that with the board as a whole in January. But just for Sarah, who's new, what we've done in the past 2 years, is we've had the director kind of do a snapshot month by month of what has been accomplished, and she has submits it to us, and then we look through it, and it has information about things that she's done and also how it ties into our strategic plan. And things that we've talked about in that are the director's work with the budget, talking about the levy, the preparation of the levy, staff relationships, board relationships, communication with staff, with the board, with patrons, with intergovernmental units, all those different kinds of things. And that's kind of what we've done in the past, and we've discussed that. It's something that we do in a executive session, and we do that at the end of the fiscal year. So I kind of wanted to bring it up again. The last time that we had a personal policy committee meeting, it was just Marjorie and me, because it was in between the time where we had 2 prior trustees who left the board, but we hadn't appointed you and Lorna yet. And so it was just the 2 of us in June. And so here we sit now, 6 months later, and we haven't been able to address it. So I kind of wanted to just bring it up and talk about it and say, hey, as a committee, how are we feeling about this? I personally don't think we can really add extra stuff on right now to the director, just because there's so much going on with the renovation process. And I think that if we were to say, for the last 6 months you need to do all this extra stuff as well, I don't think that's really fair to do. And so I don't know how everyone else feels, if that's something that we can kind of bring up to the whole board in January. One thing I forgot to mention too, the director's also been doing a lot more grant writing as well. That's one of the things that we've been talking about, especially the renovation and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff kind of on her plate and everyone's plate. So with that being said, I kind of want to open it up and see what people think, how they feel about it, and kind of go from there. So thoughts? Jenny, do you have any thoughts first
Of
before Sarah,
course.
just because you've been on the
Yeah.
board?
I figured that's the direction we would take. Yeah, I think based on my own gut feel and what I believe others have said in the past during the executive sessions, in general, the feel is it's a good existing process and it's fine that we have kept it in light of all of the extraordinary things that have added to the board and the director's plate over the past couple of years.
I forgot to mention COVID too.
Yeah. It was, we knew it was in there.
Yeah.
And so, and I do agree that, it feels like we want to improve the process, but it feels like maybe this fiscal year it's already underway and the renovation is going to continue and code are going to continue to press people's, and then the other thing that we have working in our favor, if I may say so, and I don't know, strike this from the video if we have to, but we have had positive evaluations in the past. So even if our process is in need of improvement, the result is still what we want. The goal setting, which I think is one of the main things that's maybe lacking, and other parts of the evaluation process. So I think we can lean on that for now, but I think it would be good for us to decide here when we want to take those next steps and start to maybe jot down so that we have it for that time to say what are the elements that we want to change, such as goal setting, such as if we think to other examples that we know of in our own work histories, like what else is there, is when it comes to the conversation, do we want to have some sort of rating rubric of any kind, just a loose one, not a really detailed one, but if we think about, like, for example, the point system that we came up with for selecting the architects and things like that, so that it could be a little more objective rather than subjective in our discussions at the end of the year, and that the director would know that as well and be able to help her performance succeed even more by knowing what the expectations are. So those are kind of the two things. Maybe we want to guide both goal setting and our evaluation process.
Thank you. Sarah, do you have anything that you would like to share based on what we've kind of thrown at you?
It seems like like you said, the process needs to be revised. But I was just thinking, out of everything, like you said, that is happening and that the director is doing that we don't see as a board, like just the short time that I've been here, it's like, I mean, she's kind of like Superwoman, almost like surpassing a lot of things, and especially dealing with COVID. And there's other directors, other places, other people that have kind of crumbled, and it's not against them, but the director Tatiana's really just like gone above and beyond, I feel like. So it sounds like there does need to be a revision of how you guys do this, but I definitely think in the past the library is amazing right now, and I don't think it would have been if something was wrong in the past.
Yeah, I agree. Marjorie?
I agree with everything Jenny and Sarah said. Just to reiterate, I think we might want to bring to the board, the full board, a discussion of if there are elements we want to change. I don't think there's much to change, but always good to open it up to new ideas. I like the point system, but then again, I think we run the risk of, we can't make it too broad.
Right.
I mean, there's only certain areas that we address as far as goals, objectives. So we can't make it massive because it'll just be unwieldy. So, but yeah, I think bringing it up in January and
Okay. And do you
great
remember,
idea.
we talked in the past about having like board-directed goals and then self-directed goals.
Right.
And so that's something that that we might want to talk about as well.
Absolutely.
And tying it into the strategic plan and And now that I think about it, strategic plan was through 2022, right? So that process is gonna have to start over at some point as well.
Sure.
But if you're fine as president of the board, us kind of just bringing it up at the January meeting and just kind of talking and saying, this is what we're thinking as a committee
Absolutely.
for this year. And then at our future committee meetings, we can talk about more the format of making these
Sure.
adjustments.
Mhm.
Does that work? Does that sound good?
Yeah,
Sounds good.
and then I think I would hope, as we think about the timeline of the renovation and what we hope for, any other distractions that, sorry to call them distractions, but other upticks in workload that are preventing us from improving this, that we would maybe, have it in mind to have whatever the new process is ready for the next fiscal year.
Yep. And that's kind of, and that was our plan in the previous
Right.
years, but then COVID hit in March of 2020, and so that kind of threw a wrench in it. And then this last, it's just, and I feel bad saying that, it's just, but other things that were unpreventable, such as a pandemic, kind of, took place of, or took precedence over this. So as long as we kind of are feeling like as a committee that we're good with that, and we can try to focus on that in the new year before the end of the fiscal year, so that the director knows the plan for the following year, I think that would be great. So we'll just need to figure out that, future meeting dates as well for us to work on that.
Okay.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else about that? Or can we move on to the next?
Nope.
All right, awesome. Okay, so let's move on to item 5, which is LLD policy 345, adult services, references, and readers advisory services draft discussion. And I will turn it over to the director.
Okay, so welcome to the 2 new committee members.
Sorry, I should have said that.
And as traditionally, what we submit in the packet are 2 versions of a policy. I will draft a policy that has red text and some strikeouts, and then provide a clean copy in brown. It's just, that's the color coordination we've been using and has worked well. And if there's any suggestions for change, we can definitely talk about that. So in the packet, we have 3 policies to discuss. The first policy, 345, is basically a legacy policy. It was called Adult Services. And what I've done here is change the title to Reference and Readers Advisory Services to better reflect language in the ILA standards. And, we just passed the per capita grant, and in the per capita grant, it asks about reference service and readers advisory service. And it was very vaguely kind of discussed in this previous policy. So to better coordinate with the ILA standards, I've changed some language in this policy. Also, this excluded the youth services department because it was called adult services, and youth services also performs reference service and also performs readers advisory service. So that's kind of in a nutshell of the reason we took on this policy, and also since it has not been revised for 20 years. So it needed some help, and so that's what is in the brown version here. So first and foremost, I just want to go through the clean copy, and then we can trot back to any questions you have about it. So on the clean copy, first of all, Chris mentioned this under Readers Advisory Service in the title. We want the comma outside of the S. That's the traditional, yeah. Sorry, the apostrophe. Yes, that's library lingo, and that's just a mistake there. But in the first paragraph, we're just giving some definitions of reference service and readers advisory. The second sentence is a nod to an ILA guideline. Just you have to mention that these services are afforded to people during regular library hours. Same with the third paragraph there, talking about meeting the needs of a diverse population. And then inquiries accepted in all forms. That's kind of been made a little bit more concise. The fifth paragraph is kind of a legal statement in regards to not offering personal opinions or referrals or interpretations regarding reference service. And then the last three sentences are recommendations from ILA to be included. And some of these were also in the previous policy, it's just better worded. So we can talk about anything here, reword some things.
Okay, so you said it just in the title or in every place where it says reader's advisory, it should be plural with the apostrophe.
Yes. So that's in the second sentence.
And then also in the third.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I had a question too, because I feel like it should be services and not just service, because it's two different services. So in the title, reference and reader's advisory service, it says, but I feel like it should say services. And I saw that on the initial, it was there, but then it had to strike through. But because of the fact that it's two different ones, so like in the first sentence it says reference service, and then it's reader's advisory service, but then later reference and reader's advisory services, because it's like two different ones.
In the title.
So in the title and then also in the third sentence. Am I on the right track with that? I mean, it is two different ones, so that it should be services, because it's not just one service, right? It's reader service and reference service and reader's advisory service. So if it's both of them, then it's services.
Well, are they distinct? I mean, are they, so that would be, I'm
Like
not
two separate?
disagreeing, I'm just saying, as it two,
They are separate services.
Yeah.
I think in the title it makes sense.
Okay.
Outside of the title, I think keeping it as singular is proper.
So like in the third sentence where it says LLD staff are trained in reference and reader's advisory
Service.
Services.
it says, but it should be services because it's both. I mean, I get like reference service, reader's advisory service, but I feel like when it's mentioning and, then it's services. But
I agree with it in the sense that when you're combining it, you're saying reference and reader's advisory service, but instead of saying reference service and reader's advisory service. You know what I mean? It's like an either or. You're either going to say service twice,
right,
or you should pluralize the service. If you're calling it two distinct things, which your first two sentences are, you're saying reference service is this, and reference a reader's advisory service is that. So if you're now combining it in the title and then in the third paragraph, then I think the plural makes sense in those spots.
Okay.
And my related note to that in that third paragraph is, it's teeny tiny, but if you're going to use the ampersand in the title and then use the same exact words in that sentence, maybe align those, either ampersand for both or and for both, because really it's the same phrase. So I don't know if we want to make it different for a reason. If we do, I'd like to know the reason.
I think we just do that in the titles and not in the
I know, I was trying to
narrative.
remember some of the other policy titles, I think we have ampersands in them, and then in the text it has and,
Yeah.
but then 735 that we're looking at is donations and gifts, and it's not an ampersand. So
we can
maybe
change
that's
that.
something that we need to.
So,
I'm trying to remember when we were, up with the other policies we worked
Well,
on.
I think we just use the ampersand because we also all caps the titles.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a title thing versus the narrative in the policy.
then I'm not too picky on the ampersand, but in that also the capitalization of service in that third paragraph. Because if it's
Yeah.
I don't know why it went little again.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're here. Thank
Oh, and
you.
the third one,
Yeah.
capitalizing that as in service.
Yes. Yeah. Missed that.
Other questions, comments, concerns with this one? Sarah?
I wonder, Sarah, I've got some general questions, and they really, they're just for my information, so if we don't want to cover that now.
Oh, absolutely, Marjorie, because
okay.
you might have it and we might not thought about it yet.
I'm just, this is a very unfamiliar policy for me,
Huh.
I'll be honest. I had 3 general questions. Is there or will there be a reference service desk identified when entering the library? Because right now my go-to place is the connections desk. So, and I look at that as my reference because you can ask them anything and they've got the answer. So I don't know if it makes a difference to identify it that way rather than connections. You know, I don't,
You talking about with the renovation when we're doing?
yeah. So that's one, and I'll just
Yeah,
get
good
'em-
question.
get them off right
Yeah.
away. So will all staff be trained in these 2 services? We say staff is trained. It's just for my information. I mean, so may we approach anyone to answer these sorts of questions? That, okay.
Those
and
two, you get 3.
And then,
I'm taking notes.
the R&R advisory services, okay. Who evaluates it when? Who evaluates what's necessary? I mean, would that be the director?
You were talking about the last sentence.
So the LLD regularly evaluate. I don't know that we need to be specific for my own information.
Okay.
I'm just asking.
Okay,
So that's it.
okay, your first question, reference desk and reference services. So the term, like a reference desk that has been in library throughout, we used to have something called the information desk. And then we had the reference desk, and then we had the connection desk.
Okay.
So the name of the desk isn't necessarily something we want to print
Okay.
on the desk, but reference service and readers advisory service can be conducted at any public service desk that has a librarian at its staff or a paraprofessional generally.
Okay.
And in the renovation, I believe the desk, the connection desk you're talking about there will be some, we're going over signage. There'll be some signage there that will let the user know what that desk is for, whether it says adult services or reference
Okay.
services or things like that. As far as providing reference service or readers advisory service, librarians and paraprofessionals are trained. Not every single staff member is trained. Select staff who are trained. Those who are not trained are trained to refer
Right.
them
Okay.
to the right person.
Okay.
So everybody understands how to refer a patron to the right staff person. And then 3, in regards to evaluating, in the end, yes, the buck stops with the director, but we have selectors in terms of selecting for the collection and making sure that the reference materials we have and the fiction materials we have and the audiovisual materials we have are evaluated, and it's not just annually, it's throughout the year. So we have staff who are selectors, and those are, again, librarians and paraprofessionals.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments, Jenny or Sarah, anything else on this one?
Really quickly, just curious only. I like the housekeeping and I like the, enhancements for ILA purposes, but I'm just curious. It looks like a lot of the strikeouts, which are hard to do because they were there for a reason, right? You always, ask yourself, why are things there? There was a lot of detail about priority of requests and stuff, and I was just curious why, what's the rationale behind the removal there?
Well, honestly, I didn't think it was necessary because staff really take whomever's in front of them first. If there's a call or it changes, it fluctuates. So if someone's like, oh no, I can wait, and they'll walk away. And so putting it in a policy, I think, was unnecessary. Some of the other strikeouts, and I'm not sure if it's in this individual one, but some other strikeouts are taken out because it's reflected in other policies. So it again, up for discussion if the board would like to make this a policy, certain sentences in the previous policies and keeping them, that's absolutely fine too. I just didn't think it was necessary.
Well, that's all you need to know. If the director you trust doesn't think it's necessary, or it's not helpful, or it's not really, the way that the staff operates or should operate, then yeah, no need. Just that was all. I didn't want to guess. I wanted to know.
Interesting. Any other questions, Sarah? Do you have anything else on this one?
No, just learning really quickly and hearing what
Right?
everybody's talking about.
Okay, so are we good with the way it is with the corrections that we made? to put this to the whole board in January to vote on.
I
Yes.
moved, are we ready to?
No, we don't have to vote. It's just, are we good with sending it
Yes.
to the full board in January?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Then we are going to move on to item 6, which is LLD policy 360, Lisle Library Public Programs, Library Sponsored Public Programs draft discussion. Director Weinstein?
Okay, so policy 360 is in the same boat as the previous policy. It's been 20 years. And so it used to be called Lisle Library Public Programs, and this really should be referring to library sponsored public programs because there are other public programs that occur at the library that aren't library sponsored programs. So we've changed the title here. The first paragraph just describes what public programs are. The sentence that follows is an ILA reference in terms of serving all populations, all age groups. Below that, it talks about educational, informational, cultural, and entertaining programs. Again, refers to staff who develop, provide, procure talent, and evaluate the programming. The sentence after that is a new addition, and there's a spelling error there after programs. It should be do, not dues. But it's just something I thought was important to add to the policy to let the public know that certain programs require registration so that we can control the amount of people within a program or for statistical purposes. Below that, it is an ILA suggestion regarding outreach, and then below that, there's just some better language in terms of tours in the library, just some more concise language there. So it's a pretty short policy. You can look at the next page, the clean version there. And if there's any questions, we can go over that. Pretty simple.
Okay, thank you. I had a question on the first sentence. It says public programs, plural, are an integral part of library service that supports the LLD mission.
Oh.
I thought it should be support.
Yes.
Because it's plural.
Correct.
And then for the next kind of paragraph, when it says LLD programming serves children/parents, teens, adults, and seniors. I know that you're trying to get at like some of like the story time ones, but there are other programs for children that parents don't attend with them. And so I didn't know if there was a way to say children/parents and then youth and then teens, or if there's some other way to say it to make it not seem like it's all the programs for children or children and parents together.
You know, I thought about that because I could have gone on and on.
I know.
Different populations, you know, I could have said singles,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
So again, I'm glad we're talking about it. So we could just take out parents altogether, and then it just is open with children, teens, adults, and seniors. And we can take out seniors because that would be adults.
Yeah.
It's really up to the committee to determine what they'd like to see here. Because again, I could have gone on and on with different categories.
Absolutely.
You know.
That's the one that just kind of stood out to me because I was like, well, I dropped my kids off for programs or I've gone someplace else and they're in it by themselves that I don't have to be part of, but when they were little and it's story time, then I was with them.
So the parents and the seniors are that kind of niche population that could probably be removed because it's really, I think children, teens, and adults encompasses everything.
Yeah. Other committee members, how do we feel about removing parents and seniors? And just having it be children, teens, and adults?
I don't mind it. I think it's an improvement, especially because, you know, if we were going to go down the route of parents, then we should say, well, doesn't it mean caregivers and guardians too, you know,
Right.
and that sort of route or whatever. But then I'm like, well, what is it telling us? You know, if we were trying to say it serves patrons of all ages, then maybe it's better to say patrons of all ages or something similar rather than, you know, delineating the different age groups that people understand.
I think it's in the policy because you want to let people know that we're a public library, we serve all age ranges. And so how we say that is how, you know, that's up for discussion.
Sarah?
I like what Jenny said because yeah, all ages because they do have like baby programming, like
Right.
the little ones, and then the youth, and then what you guys were talking about. So I feel that like that does encompass everybody. So I mean, to me, I mean, it sounds like it brings everybody in if you say serves patrons of all ages. It just seemed to sound right, and it gets the point across that it's everybody.
So should we, so here's a question that you're making me think of now, because we have some programming that are suitable for all ages, right? So like when we had the Winter Week kickoff party or the Fall Fest or, you know, those kinds of things that are really suitable for all ages. And then we have some that are specifically targeted
For you.
to small children or to teens or to seniors. Do we want to say something? I don't know that are I don't know that are, you know, that we offer some, because if we just say it's programming for all ages, are people going to think it's just everything is going to be all ages and there's nothing that's targeted to specific age groups? Or should we say that there are some programs targeted to specific age groups? I don't know.
Well, could you just say to all patrons specific to age?
So
I
we
mean,
could, well, we've got some that are general, right, for
Right,
everyone, and then we've got some that are targeted to specific
That's
age
true.
groups.
Yeah, I was gonna say, would you be able to say that the programming serves patrons of all ages and specific age groups?
Or something, yeah.
Just to add that
in
on.
there.
To that? Because you're getting that general first, but then you're adding, like you
But there
just
are some
said,
that are
like
specific.
Yeah, I think another clause to tie it in for clarification would hit it.
But that looks like your words.
I'm thinking. That's why we're this is the wordsmithing session.
I
So
see you taking notes, so I know that
So-
you're trying to get something out there.
we could have one sentence that says LLD programming serves patrons of all ages, period. Or we could say with and something following that. So serves patrons of all ages. It could be period and then another sentence.
Certain programs are designed for specific age groups.
I was gonna say
Or
including,
curated, or however you like to say it, you know?
like would that be an okay
Intended
word
for
to including, like patrons of all ages, including specific targeted? I don't know if
But you look like you're thinking of some wording over there.
Including certain programs.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
for
decide, is it one sentence?
targeted
specific
age
age
groups.
groups. Yeah.
Only programming serves patrons of all ages that include
Including certain programming for specific
Specific
age groups.
I don't know, it's a little,
A little
Wordy.
overwhelming?
I think it's a little
Wordy.
clumsy, not that I have any better suggestions.
Yeah.
I like it the way it is. But
The original way.
Yes.
Serves children.
yeah,
teens, adults, and adults.
I mean, you could say then Lisle programming serves patrons of all ages, including
And then go back
Children,
to children,
teens,
teens, adults. Yeah. We do
How would
that.
that
Yeah,
work?
that does it.
started off this,
Right.
add the patrons of all ages
So
in
LLD programming serves patrons of all
ages,
including
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 Children.
children, teens, and adults. I don't know. To me, it's a little bit cleaner.
more concise.
I like that.
Yeah, concise. Thank you, Emily. I like the big words. you
Well, no, because
I-
before I knew what your thought was before when it was all the other words, it was just too much. How are we feeling about that? LLD
how about
programming-
this?
Okay,
Because
go ahead.
that sounds to me, it's a little redundant,
Okay.
Yes.
but I can throw in the including with the specific programming this way. So the LLD programming serves patrons of all ages, including specific programs for children, teens, and adults.
Lovely.
Okay.
Including
Yep.
Are we all
specific
good with that?
programming. Oh my god.
Did you read your notes?
No.
That's good.
No, I can't, because it's bigger.
Okay,
It's scribbling so tiny.
can you read it again one more time? I'm sorry.
LLD programming serves patrons of all ages, including specific programming for children, teens, and adults.
Are we all good with that one?
Yeah.
How about LLD programs serve?
Yes,
Oh, is it a programming? Okay.
yeah, that's.
Because then I use programming. So
Okay.
Fresh.
programs.
LLD programs serve patrons of all ages that include specific programming for children, teens, and adults.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds
Good.
sold.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. And then moving on, you just said there was the crossing out the S and do's, which is do.
Yeah.
And then did we have any other questions or comments about anything else included in this revised policy? Jenny?
Just one. The last sentence of the second to last, what is going to be the last sentence after the strikeouts. The word instruction didn't hit me as the right word there. Provides organized tours of the library as well as instruction, because it just wasn't clear to me what that was trying
So
to
look
say.
on the clean copy on the next page.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's provides organized tours of the library as well as instruction to ensure patrons are comfortable using the library. So that instruction is to ensure patrons are comfortable using the library.
Is it clear to you? Because what I can't feel, providing tours makes sense to me. I know what organized tours are, but
Right.
what's this instruction? Am I sitting in a classroom getting instruction? Is someone handing me a piece of paper with instructions on it? What does instruction mean?
Education. I don't know what other word to use. Guidance.
Like,
Ooh, guidance.
Guidance.
I like guidance.
Yeah.
You like guidance?
yeah, I mean, guidance. Yeah, you saw where I could take instruction and visualize different things happening.
So normally many of the children's classes come over and they get a tour of the library, but they also get how to use the catalog
or where certain
or where certain
areas of
things are in the
library
building are.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know what is it we're trying to encapsulate and see if that's the best word for it. Because it wasn't clear to me what it was.
Yeah, and this sentence again comes from ILA because that's part of the standards that we should be providing this service. And how do you say it? How do you best say it?
I don't know. I like guidance because you're still guiding the kids to how to look for, how to look up a book. You're guiding them to these things. I don't know. That's just,
And is that done in a group? This guidance is still at a group level, not just like shoulder to shoulder.
It could be one-on-one. It could be in a group. It could be organized. It can be one-on-one. When we register a patron for a card, it's not just children. So a new family or new person comes to Lisle and they register for a library card. Someone from circulation will walk them and give them a very brief tour of the library. This is reference desk. This is these services, and if they need further instruction, they can visit the reference desk for a catalog walkthrough or something like that. So it's kind of everything. And again, when we write policy in general, we try to touch on the important aspects of what ILA recommends for us, and then also specific to our library, certain important points. But we also we don't want to tie our hands to make it super specific either.
Right.
So
I feel a little bit better about using guidance just because I feel like it's not
So
so
formal.
like I'm going to instruct you how to do this.
It's
And I
not
think
so formal.
instructions with kind of what Jenny was saying. So if you in the library world are comfortable with it being guidance instead of instruction, I would prefer to go that way as well.
Yep.
Okay. Other thoughts? Sarah, do you have any other thoughts on this policy?
no.
Jenny? That was it. Marjorie?
Just two general questions again.
Yep.
Third to the last paragraph.
Uh-huh.
The LLD provides outreach programs. When I attended not this past conference, the conference before, I did a session on outreach, and it was very specific. One of the suggestions in that was to name the programs because I didn't realize the expanse of the social programs. I mean, it's not only homelessness; it's food, like a
Insecurity.
desert, where you don't have access to food, different things. Just asking, maybe this isn't the place to list the outreach program. Will people understand what outreach means? I mean, we all understand it, but I think there are some people that don't really understand. You can come to the library and find out where to get aid. Just a general term there. Even, um, you know, uh, women's issues, shelters. Just a thought on that. And then the next paragraph, when we mention programs, should we include the newsletter or is that a given?
I tried to put a catch-all there. It's
Okay,
about other
I'm
marketing.
just asking. We all
can-
did the
we can.
newsletter, but
We can add it, absolutely, if that's what you like.
no, it's up to, if you feel it's not necessary, then let's not get too wordy here.
Just to your outreach point, I think there's different ways to define outreach, and here I think we're just mentioning that we go beyond the library's walls,
Okay.
whether it's we're providing outreach to a daycare center, or if we're just going to Dragonfly Landing and we're outside and we're considering that an outreach and having people from the community come to that particular place.
No, I'm
So it's
good with
again,
that.
it's a broad.
Okay, I'm fine
Sure.
with that. That's it.
Okay?
Mhm.
Are we good?
Mhm.
Okay, so as a committee, do we feel comfortable sending this to the entire board for January?
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. Okay, moving
You're
on.
batting 1,000.
I know, right? Woo-hoo. Okay, moving on. Item number 7, LLD policy 735, donation and gifts draft discussion.
Okay, so as the board just recently greenlighted a recent fundraising effort, Chairwoman Switzbeck and I thought it would be appropriate to update the donations and gifts policy, and I think we need an ampersand there. But this has not been reviewed since 2013, and so what I did here was better categorized these numbered statements, or I think they previously called them policy points. So what I wanted to provide are some general guidelines under A that really just encapsulate what our donation and gift policy is, and then separate specific categories following A with B through D. So I also, after, as I always do with these drafts, after the packet's out, I always think of something to add afterwards. So if you could just pass this out to everybody, and then Beth, you get one too. This is just an ad for the general guidelines. And do I have my own? Yes, I do. So under number 1, it really, well, first of all, the first statement is kind of a description of the fact that we welcome gifts and donations here at the library. Then under general guidelines, number 1 says that we enter in giving relationships that are in the best interest of the library. I think that's important to state right away. What I would suggest for number 2 is what I've just passed out to you, and that's just the top paragraph there that describes what we are as an institution. And the reason I'm saying this is because of this recent fundraising effort. I've received some questions about, are we a 501c3? And we are not. So I think making a statement about what we are in terms of a public entity is important. So what this states is that the LLD is a tax-exempt public library, and that public library districts in Illinois are considered political subdivisions per the IRS and the Illinois compiled statutes. And we may receive and administer donations for the benefit of the public. And then under Illinois library law, any person or group of persons may make donations of money or property for the benefit of any local library or public library district. And then we've got the statutes listed there. And then title, when I forgot a period there. And then title to the donation vests with Lisle Library Board of Trustees. And then I've got the statutes for your reference, and then the IRS.
Where were you saying that period should go?
Oh, just after the statutes. That's just, there's some, oh, there it is. It shouldn't have a period after district, it should be after the.
So that's part of that same.
Yes.
Status.
So that would be number 2. I'm just going over this and then we can track back.
So then are you saying then that would be 2 and then it would shift the 2 through 6 down and make it 3 through 7? Like an addendum, or is that taking the place of
I would just make it a new 2.
a new 2 and then the rest would shift down?
Yes. I think that should be number 2 and then stated right away. And then it just goes into the other general guidelines here that it becomes, any donation becomes a property, whether it's monetary or a book or an item. And then number 3 is that we follow the GAAP rules for accounting. Number 4 is that we encourage everyone to consult with their accounting professionals or financial advisors. Number 5 states that we don't, employees, trustees don't ask for exchanges in exchange for donations. Number 6 is that the donor names are public information. Then B talks about, this is a new ad, is that we may solicit donations for specific purposes or projects and that they shall be board approved before any donation campaign begins. And then, let's see, I have notes here. And then letter C is the Fund for Illinois Libraries. That was referenced in the original policy, and I don't think it really described what it was. So there's some better language there in terms of the Fund for Illinois Libraries. And just for everybody's knowledge, this fund is administered by ILA. So let's say there's a large corporation who wants to donate to the Lisle Library District, but they can only donate to a 501c3. So the ILA acts as that pass-through. We would have to connect with ILA and pay a fee, and then they would act as the pass-through for us. So the company could donate to the ILA for us, and then we would receive funds that way. And this was set up through ILA. So that's just another more clarification there for Fund for Illinois Libraries. And then under D, that is material donations. And then I'm just, after looking at this, I might want to take out the word occasionally. I don't think that's even necessary. So, and that just talks about how the library occasionally accepts materials for the Friends of the Library or otherwise, and that we have the right to refuse. And then we list what we won't accept, and there's just better language there in regards to restrictions, like we don't want smoky items or damaged items or magazines and things of that nature. And that's it. It's a lot. I'm sorry, but we can go back and talk about it.
Thank you. So at the beginning of the policy, you're saying making donations and then ampersand. Yes. Keep it in line with the other policy that we had. Okay, so we're doing that. And then under A, general guidelines, so the current 5, which will be the new 6, which we added that number 2. Can we add a comma after employees for the my Oxford comma?
Where is this?
So it's
Oh,
number
6.
5.
Yes.
LLD trustees, employees, and or volunteers. So just add in that
Yes.
Oxford comma for me.
Yes.
Jenny, you'll learn that I love the Oxford comma. I bring it up a lot.
I'm usually a fan. I'm
Yes.
daughter of an English teacher.
Otherwise, I think it's great. So I will pass it to the committee and get their input. Sarah, do you have anything that you would like to add or ask about or suggestions for changing?
No, just no.
Okay. Thank you, Jenny.
The new number 3, old 4. It's got accounting stuff in there, so why not? I would capitalize the G, the A, and the P in the words before the acronym is listed.
Oh, yeah.
So the generally accepted accounting principles,
Yes.
all those should be capitalized.
Yes. And for consistency, putting up for grabs where it says the first 2 words, the library, we've been changing to the LLD a lot. Don't know if we want to do that there too, but that was my suggestion there.
Yes.
Again, okay.
And all the rest of them have LLD, so that makes sense to make it the LLD.
Yeah, I think that just followed from the old, yes, I copy and pasted from the old.
Perfect.
And then it's not a make or break for me. Not that anything before that was, but in that same sentence where it's now changed to related to accounting and crediting, I'm just not sure that's the best phrasing. I was thinking it would say read better with the LLD will follow GAAP for the accounting and crediting of all contributions.
Or
Or the
for the
accounting.
accounting very well.
instead of related, anything with related or regarding, I feel like it's trying.
loose.
It's trying
Yeah.
to get there,
Yeah.
but it's a rarity for me, chopping something down to a simple preposition.
No, that makes sense.
And then the only other thing, and let me just make sure, because I think in the strike through version, which I like reading, there isn't a comma, an Oxford comma or otherwise, that we might want there for 5. Where is it? LLD trustees. I'm lost. There it is. LLD trustees. Yeah, it's there. Okay. That one's already there. The last thing is, and this one I really don't know what to recommend. So if I don't have any better ideas, then, no need to. In that sentence, under D, material donations, the one where we were striking occasionally, where it says cease. The LLD may cease accepting feels a little clunky to me. I don't know if we also, in consideration of, that cease sounds final, if we would say pause instead. The LLD may pause. And I don't know if, again, the English teacher thing in me says you got sort of a verb thing going on with pause accepting. If maybe it wants to be pause the acceptance of donations, just something rather than it just I don't have any better ideas there, but that's that little piece just
May limit the acceptance?
yeah exactly. That's great. Yeah, that's even more broad, right?
So may limit the acceptance
Of donations, right?
donations.
May limit the acceptance of donations.
Yes, that feels much smoother.
And is everyone okay with the inclusion of number 2? Do you think it makes sense?
Yes,
I hope.
Yeah.
yes, definitely. Marjorie, did you have anything else on this?
Yeah, just a couple things, as long as we were on D. The second, it's the first sentence. We talk about Friends of the Lisle Public Library District.
That is their legal name.
That is that was my question, so that's the legal name. Then when we go to B, B in solicitation by the LLD
Yes.
on the revised copy. I've got a question relating to our recent solicitation. It was specific. So am I correct that future solicitations will be specific?
Yes.
So
They should be.
Because it should be.
It shall be.
So
yes.
so we don't just send out a general, just please donate to your.
that in and of itself can be a specific request. So if you, for instance, if the library wanted an ongoing donate to the library button on its website, the board would have to approve of that general idea request.
Well, I guess the problem for me comes in if it isn't specific, who determines where it goes? If a patron donates and doesn't specify,
It goes to the general fund.
the general fund.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I'm just.
And
for
we've
my
had
information.
that. I mean, we've had people just, I'm writing a check for $20, please use it in the best way you can for the library.
Okay,
And that goes straight to the general
And that's under A, general guidelines, the current 2, but it'll be the new 3, when it says the LLD reserves the right to donate or sell, oh, I'm sorry. Donators may be added with, no, wait, where is it? I thought I saw it somewhere that said that we could decide what we were doing.
Reserves the right to accept or decline any
Number 2.
donation.
Oh, it is still in number 2.
Mhm.
Okay. Becomes the property, reserves the right to donate or sell donated items and direct acquired funds to support LLD collection services and programs. So,
Okay. And then on C, when we talk about the annual fee, you indicated that we pay the fee to the ILA, the library does.
To transact the
Okay,
The ILA
make the
has-
transaction
For the
happen
right
for us.
to.
Yeah.
ILA
create
has
that
legal
pass-through.
costs
Yeah.
to maintain the 501c3.
Right.
They have to do tax filings.
okay. And in general, is this now our fundraising policy?
I wouldn't call it a
So,
fundraising
and do
policy.
we have a fundraising policy?
No.
So
this
I
is-
think I'll address the chair on this.
Uh-huh.
For future reference, as we get into fundraising, I realize the difference between fundraising and someone donating.
right.
We probably need to address
Have a fundraising.
fundraising.
I mean,
That's just my general. It's up to this committee, of course.
As opposed to right now, because it just is under this B, solicitation by the LLD.
Yeah, I mean, the
That's it.
donations it gives is great. I mean, that.
Right.
this-
And because it's just saying it's soliciting donations as opposed to a fundraising campaign. Is that what you're saying?
Right, well, to me, it can almost be the same thing, soliciting donations and fundraising. In my simple mind, it could be the same thing.
Right.
So do we want to differentiate? Should we differentiate?
I think under B, you can do solicitation / fundraising by the LLD, but when you brought that up, Marjorie, I was thinking about, does the board want a policy on fundraising and delineating how you fundraise, who can fundraise? I mean, the question is, do you really want to go into the weeds of, codifying how we conduct that? That's an option. That's not here. So we can expand on this. This can go to the board for approval and we can
Right.
expand on it if that's the way the board wants to go. Or
Because
the committee.
If we do that, then it would be more specific, so we're making it
Well,
clearer guidelines of what we have to do, whereas this is just more broad, just saying we have to have board approval if we're gonna do something.
Well, I mean, like in past discussions about fundraising, I think it's very important, and we did touch on the fact that, we want it to be a coordinated effort, and we don't want individual trustees fundraising. So somewhere, either we agree as a board, and it's kind of like in our general guidelines that no one will do that, or we establish something. I don't know if it has to be that formal.
I feel like it might be in our code of ethics for trustees. I don't have it with me, I'm sorry.
I
don't bring my
here,
manual with me. Maybe right here, here's look at it.
No, would you want to look at it under fundraising? Under.
Under the code of, the trustee code of conduct, I feel like,
Well, I think it's covered in B as well.
right, and I think we covered it, because it says shall the board approve.
Yes.
And I think we
Well,
talked about
that's
it in
true.
the code of conduct, that it was, that you can't do anything.
Where is the code of conduct,
Individually.
Tatiana?
It's
201.
201.
201.
So there is some language in policy 201B1 C. It says an individual board member has no authority to determine policy, give direction, or to act or speak for the board unless specifically authorized to do so by board action. Let's see.
Why can't I find 201? I've got 300s.
It's right at the beginning.
I'm not gonna say, we got those.
I think Chris was very good about updating me, but I've got 200. I don't know.
I feel like we discussed it when we made the trustee code of conduct. I feel like we covered that because that was a concern.
There's a lot of,
Okay.
A lot of things that you can't do, a trustee cannot act on their own,
yeah,
basically.
there is a lot of that language in here. I'm trying to find if there's anything specific to fundraising.
And you're saying because in this policy 735 under B, that solicitations shall be board approved.
Yes.
Do we wanna change the shall then to must? Would you feel better about that? Or are we fine with the shall?
Marjorie, was your goal for there to be more restriction or more guidance? Like in your
Well,
comments?
both, but I mean, if I may say, it was a controversial subject at one time. And it, created some dissension, and that's what I want to avoid in the
Right.
future. But, so guidance, yes, of course, is always good. I don't know, I don't know if restriction is too harsh of a word, but I
And I
understand.
know what you mean by guidance, and I don't know if that needs to be a policy then, or if that's something that we should do as like a procedure. You know what I mean? At some point, because we talked about that before, the difference between having a policy and versus a procedure, and the procedure we would follow versus the official policy. Am I messing that up, Tatiana?
No, that's correct.
No.
And but to Marjorie's point, to kind of make sure it's stamped in here in some way, we can add a sentence to B that kind of reflects the ethics policy sentence. And we've had duplication in other policies
Yeah.
before. So we're talking about solicitation by the LLD, and that would encompass fundraising. So we could have this sentence here that says they may solicit donations for specific purposes of projects. Solicitation shall be board approved prior to any donation campaign. And then we can add a sentence that says individual trustees may not, go it alone. In other words, or something that
Funds or-
like I could use the same language that's in the ethics policy that follows that. Let me see, I just had it, I should have looked it up.
I mean, do you feel better about that? And then do you wanna talk at another time about
Well,
procedure for fundraising? I mean, I get what you're saying.
I would hope board approved means the full board,
Right,
and not just a single trustee. That
Yes.
should cover it.
okay,
I mean, the more I look at it, board approved. So
and
I
like,
can't go out and fundraise.
right, and like what we did at the last meeting we had, which was the whole board,
Uh-huh.
we voted to approve that campaign for that specific
Exactly,
thing,
that's
right?
true. Well, the committee did, the AOC committee did, and
They
then,
brought it to
of course,
us.
we do the approving, but they
Right.
recommend it,
Right,
okay.
So
we had to approve it as a whole board, we all
Exactly.
voted on it, right? Yeah.
So we could say, this is just an option
Mhm.
under B, keeping the first two sentences, and it'll lead this way. Solicitation shall be board approved prior to any donation campaign. Individual trustees may not solicit or fundraise without full board approval. That would just kind of stamp it.
That sounds good to me.
That sounds good.
Do you think it's
Yeah.
Are
necessary?
you okay?
I'm fine either way. I mean, Marjorie's comfort level matters to me, but my comfort level is there with the two existing sentences already.
Just for me coming in, I feel like that is more clear. Like that is a clear thing of like just reminding like individual trustees cannot do it on their own. To me, I feel like if I was just coming in like that and I read that wouldn't make me think something else or like assume,
Right,
I guess.
and I think that clarity is important, and because, and it was before your time, Jenny, so we have this history that we're like, yes,
I know,
and
that's
being,
fine.
I think it being clearer
Right,
is beneficial, especially as Sarah just said coming in, if she read that sentence, she would know without a doubt, no, okay, it needs to be full board approved, I cannot take that on myself.
for future.
Yeah.
trustees.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
It's
we're
important.
using the actual term fundraising in here too, so.
That's good.
and
Yeah,
that's
that's
great.
Very good,
Okay,
very good.
all right, great.
That's great.
Boy, are we smart.
How about that?
Power of group.
Okay, Thank you. So does anyone have any other questions, comments, concerns about policy 735?
It's good.
Okay, so are we good at also recommending this to the full board for our January meeting?
Yeah.
Awesome. So that is our last item on the agenda before adjournment. So can I get a motion in a second to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Okay,
That's good.
In a second?
Marjorie, do you want to?
I'll second. Well,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 1:05 p.m.